I think playing live is probably the most rewarding part about being in a band.
So when I do perform live, I keep it short and I keep it as dynamic as I can. The other thing I do is I'll get physically warmed up as well as vocally warmed up.
We did this like routine as a band where we do heaps of star jumps before we go on, just to get energy into us, because I think before you go on you feel a bit like shaky and stuff.
Turn on, if you've got music in backstage, turn on the music really loud, dance, whatever. Make sure you're in an energetic vibe. It also means that when you do get the inevitable adrenaline rush of having the crowd in front of you, it's less of a contrast between maybe a really relaxed backstage and being on stage. You've already got a bit of an adrenaline rush.
Just getting into the zone, sort of like, sometimes like I remember before our tuning fork show, I was like listening to Idols, just to get the energy up, just because of like, that just really pumps you. So it's just getting into that mental space.
I warm up my vocals before I start. Lip trills are the best thing to do. It's like... When I was in music school, we used to do this thing in vocal classes where my tutor would be like, lip trill the whole song before you go out and sing it. Or lip trill the notes that are going to be the hardest notes for you to reach, kind of thing. And then you do a lot of tongue twisters and stuff to get your dictation on. My mother makes me munch my M&Ms on a Monday morning, ma. And you sing it. My mother makes me munch my M&Ms on a Monday morning, ma. My mother makes me munch my M&Ms on a Monday morning. And I stretch my face a lot before I go on.
Staying hydrated is good.
That's something we've been discussing. Just last night, Ben was saying, "Hey man, do you have water?" And I'm like, "No." He's like, "I'll get you water because it's incredible." It's just, he said it was life-changing for him to have water on stage. So I hated playing live for the longest time. Only probably in the last 2 or 3 years have I really enjoyed it. I think I just developed some healthier habits around preparing and around what I'm doing cognitively when I'm on stage. I've just learned how to have fun. I think it's not overthinking what's going on.
I think that you shouldn't think too much about what you're doing and trust your subconscious. Trust that you know all the words, trust that you know all the chords you're playing. Because every time I've done a gig and I start to overthink about, maybe like this is the next lyric, this is the next chord, this is the next movement I need to do, then that's where I just screw it up. Because if you're singing in the car and you're singing a song that you love, you don't really think, these are the words, like these are the lyrics. You just do it because you trust your subconscious mind. And I think that that's really important in performing, to just trust yourself and know that you know what you're doing.
It's about like trying to flick the switch to just like stop caring so much. Like just realize that when you're playing, that it's not so important that you be perfect, and that it's just like, if you're a perfectionist, you forget completely why you get up there. And it's just to like have fun because you like playing music, right? It's a job you love doing. The bands like you would have gone to see, like at your favorite bands, they would have made like plenty of mistakes that they would have been beating themselves up afterwards, but you didn't notice, right? I mean, you let the music sort of take you rather than you like over analyzing it the whole time. For me, like the flicking of the switch, I think it's like between a conscious and a subconscious thing.
I think I'd say to Gretel, don't be intimidated by your audience. Think of the audience as your friends, or just as people you know, even if you've never seen their face in your life.
I think you should speak to the audience the same way you would speak to your best friend. I don't know, I always try and put myself in the position of being in a crowd and how I would feel if I watched somebody and then I'm like, it's not that bad, kind of thing. So I like to remind myself that people are just people, and it's such a great thing that they're there to see you, and you kind of have to put yourself in a selfless position that you're there to make them happy. It's not about them giving you what you want.
I think it's just you want to like build a sense of community in the room. I don't think we really like to have like a look at me attitude to stuff. It's more just like a trying to get everyone dancing there together. Just making eye contact with people is a great way to start it. It's a great way to start building that connection. Giving people time or an opportunity to sing along where it's not just them singing over the top of you, or like you help them feel involved in the show, like they're contributing something to it, because you don't have a show without your audience. And so your audience should feel like they're part of it as much as you are. And that might not even be like in your performance as such, but like talking to people afterwards, just sticking around and like having conversations with people that you haven't met before who came along to see you. When you give them that energy, they'll give it back to you as well. So it's like a self-feeding kind of community thing.
I forget lyrics a lot. I would forget the first lines of songs. This happened quite a few times, but I was really lucky because I could be like, I'd start a song and I would just be complete blank, and I'd go around this intro for a while, and then I would just say, all right, everyone, I've totally forgotten the first line. Who can tell me the first line? And luckily enough people knew my music that they'd just yell out the first line. I'm like, bless you. If people hadn't known my songs, I couldn't get the crowd help. I think the strategy would be do a different song and come back to that one and hope that when your mind approaches it fresh, you can remember it. Sometimes you can remember the second verse, so you could just start with the second verse and repeat that. No one knows your song. There's not that many people in the audience who are really listening to every word you say, I've found. Studies have shown that when people are receiving words from people in a speech, about 80% of it is body language, what they're actually interpreting.
If it ever gets to the point where you do have to just stop, don't be embarrassed. Just roll with it. Other people in the audience will react the way you react. So if you're embarrassed, they'll be like, what? And if you're not embarrassed, they'll be there like, yeah.
I think my biggest thing, I guess it's more like a specific technical thing with the musicality of it, but it's just not rushing. You gotta lay it back and just like, even though you're excited, just relax.
Yeah, and a lot of what kind of, another thing that happened for me, in kind of relation to that is like I used to, because I was so excited, kind of like really push my vocal like unnecessarily and just like, and it just turns into like a really intense song that it's not supposed to be. And that's because I'm trying to keep the energy up and I'm trying to make it get the attention of the audience. But it's awful. And it took a long time.
So true, man.
And quite a few like times of like the other dudes just being like, dude, chill.